How do we do this again?
Wait.
It's been a while.
I low-key forgot.
It's been like over a month. Are the people ready for this?
I think so. I think, low-key, we might be so back.
Oh, we are so back. Hold on. Oh, I think I got it.
Okay.
Okay, you ready? Ready? I bet. What's going on, Titans? Welcome back to another episode of Daily Titan Podcast, or DT Pod for short. I'm one of your hosts and your new news design editor, Kabeer Kansara, and I'm joined with
Jayden Lovelady, the newly minted opinion editor, and welcome back to Season 2 of DT Pod.
Glad to be back. Glad that y'all are listening. And in today's episode, we'll be going over a couple of stories, including a walk-on Wilshire decision, the search for a new student affairs vice president, an article about pesticides found in marijuana carts, an opinion on performative activism, as well as a couple of baseball and softball previews. Stay tuned.
Heading on over to top.
Whoa.
Who are you?
I am me. Who are you?
We're the podcast hosts.
What? I was the podcast host.
No.
Not that I know of.
Maybe
I think you guys are
for Walk on Wilshire.
mistaken. I think you guys are mistaken.
I'm pretty sure
How'd you get
Mr.
in here?
Isaiah Mallari were not supposed to be back for Walk on Wilshire, but yet, God willing, here you are.
I'll be honest. Yeah, I took over you guys' role temporarily.
Man, we take
Unbelievable.
we take a
show.
couple weeks off, and all of a sudden we just get replaced. That's how it is.
I unretired from the Walk on Wilshire stories.
Well, honestly,
To
like,
come
welcome
back
back.
Yeah.
A big
Thank you.
development has been
Thank
made.
you.
Well, since you're here, go ahead and tell us about it. What's up with that?
Yeah. So Fullerton City Council, they voted to reopen the Walk on Wilshire or Wilshire Avenue for cars, and
Can I say, I am, like, actually so devastated. I truly didn't think it would get turned over.
I'm really gonna miss Walk on Wilshire.
Yeah, a lot of people that went to that meeting were obviously advocating for it. You had the Safe Walk on Wilshire group. Most of them were there advocating for it. I mean, you only saw 5 people who were mostly business owners or stakeholders that were there to just say, hey, like, can we just come up with a compromise to, like, reopen the street because our businesses are, suffering because of Wilshire or Walk on Wilshire. But I mean, if you went to the city council meeting, there was a majority of people who were publicly advocating to save Walk on Wilshire.
Yeah, I feel like it's just such a, like, staple in the community. And I know, like, I mean, downtown is obviously going to be downtown or wherever you are. It's a staple in every community. But, like, specifically Walk on Wilshire, that's, like, everyone here knows what that is. Like, I can't believe it's going to be drivable. Like, I haven't even been in the city of Fullerton when there have been cars on the road.
Yeah, I've only ever known Wilshire as the Walk on Wilshire. It's never been a Wilshire Avenue to me.
Yeah.
It's never been a drivable road.
Yeah, in the past, Fullerton City Council, and by the way, Demiana Gabriel, who is the news assistant, she worked on this story, so I'm proud of her for working on this. But in the past, Fullerton City Council, they have halted work on some of the projects. They've done it for Union Pacific Trail, and with a new city council member, like, I wouldn't say we, but I would say Fullerton residents had, like, no idea what kind of politics Jamie Valencia would have, who replaced Bruce Whitaker. No one had an idea of what her politics would be, but it seems like she was open to reopening Wilshire Avenue.
Yeah,
So
what was the final vote?
it was a 2-2. So initially, the city planners, they had 4 options, and one of the options was to fully reopen the street. Like, we're just not gonna care about closing the street down, and we're not gonna deal with all the numbers, and not gonna do any of that. The other biggest option was to fully, like, plan out how to close the entire street off. So for those who don't know, it's only 200 feet of road, but one of the plans was to figure out statistics to figure out how to close the entire street, so it's more than 200 feet.
600 feet.
Yeah, so it's, just closing off basically most of Wilshire Avenue at that point, at downtown Fullerton at least. So one of the motions was to essentially say, hey, like, we're going to essentially just look into the statistics of fully reopening the street, and this was brought up by Councilmember Ahmed Zara. He was the one that proposed this motion to say, hey, let's figure out a way to fully reopen the street, and I'm going to put up this motion. And the ending result was a 2-2 vote. Fred Jung and Jamie Valencia voted to not focus in on looking at statistics to fully close the street. And then you had Zara and Shana Charles, who voted for extending the Walk on Wilshire a length from 200 to 600 feet. And after that vote, they didn't, like, make any motions to continue discussion. They just kind of left it flat. All 4 council members in that moment just kind of left it hanging. And so at this point, the remaining motion is just to leave the current extension from last year to expire. So
when does it expire?
February 1st.
Okay, so after February 1st, people will be able to drive on Wilshire Avenue?
Yeah, car traffic is just going to...
The next DT Pod episode will be post-closing of Walk on Wilshire.
Post-closing.
We'll make sure
it's going to have a different ring to it.
Oh,
different
man.
ring to it.
Yeah.
No more Walk on Wilshire.
No more Walk on Wilshire.
Wow. That is really sad, though, because I feel like Walk on Wilshire kind of served as a sort of example of what a walkable community could look like, especially in Fullerton. And considering that, like, a lot of businesses kind of capitalized on the ability that there was no drivability, like with the outside seating for different restaurants and, like, the benches outside of coffee shops and things like that. Like, I feel like the community will definitely be missing out on those kind of aspects that aren't going to be present anymore because we're allowing car access back onto the street.
Yeah. Actually, there was also conversation during that meeting about something called the Fox Block development, which would be located along Chapman Avenue and Harbor Boulevard in DTF as well. And that would be another area that city staff and city planners could look at to completely close off from vehicles. It's near the Fox Theater. It's just 5 minutes away from Walk on Wilshire, so it's not that far. The Safe Walk on Wilshire organization, they've hosted events on there to kind of help advocate for, hey, like, we can host events here. They were trying to spread the word to city council, like, hey, like, we could have events here. We could have, markets and different kinds of events to, like, help promote Wilshire Avenue. But it was just an abrupt end, and a lot of people were just kind of disappointed. Again, especially that Safe Walk on Wilshire organization, just disappointed with, how the meeting went, really. Demiana Gabriel, she had a really good quote from Anjali Tapadia. I don't know if I butchered the name, I apologize. But she was a representative from the Safe Walk on Wilshire group. And she said, she said that the city council just didn't really care about the walkability aspect of it, and that's why it was just kind of disappointing to see that the aspect of bikeability and walkability was just kind of not talked about. Yeah, it was just she felt that it was just not well discussed in the meeting. I would also say too, like, last meeting in November or or late summer, I believe, but one of those meetings, city planners had a survey go out to a lot of Fullerton residents, basically all Fullerton residents. It was online. It was available online on the website. And about 70% of the people who responded to that basically said that they support it. There was a lot of basically support from local residents, and you had, when I covered the Chalk on Wilshire event from last pod, I talked about this. You had a lot of people from, like, outside of Fullerton
coming down for different events like that and stuff.
It definitely had its own impact in that regard, and it was just kind of crazy to see that it just kind of just dropped like this in a it's
very abrupt.
An abrupt ending, and there was no further discussion after they voted 2-2 on it.
That is unfortunate, but I hope this Fox Block development plan, like, does pan out in some way that kind of revives that walkability in the city. Because even if it's not Wilshire, for people to have kind of somewhere to go and hang out in that kind of capacity would be nice, even if it's not exactly Wilshire.
Yeah, city planners, like, they recommended this to the city or to city council to kind of redirect maybe, hey, like, this could be another option in order to just kind of see what the benefits would be to, like, have another pedestrianized area. But the fact that this is part of the discussion, to say, like, hey, like, we have this other area we could look at for pedestrianized areas, but then it's just interesting to see that they just kind of abruptly ended discussion on Walk on Wilshire and, just having a 2-2 vote and not discussing it any further. Just kind of, it's very interesting. Again, there's probably politics in here. Fred Young has historically voted against Walk on Wilshire before, or has had comments about Walk on Wilshire before. So it's just kind of interesting to see that it's just abruptly ending like that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you guys for having me.
See you later.
Really appreciate it. Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.
Hey Titans, this is Nick Wire, sports editor of the Daily Titan. We're so excited to be back for season 2 of the podcast. We'll be at Discoverfest today, so come say hi to us, and look out for our back-to-school themed tabloid edition that'll be published next week, along with a brand new episode of the podcast. Thank you all for listening.
Continuing on with some more news, we now have Emily Wilson, the returning and reigning editor-in-chief of the Daily Titan, here to break down the Student Affairs VP process. So Emily, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great.
I'm good. No one told me you were going to be editor-in-chief again.
I actually told you. Were you not paying attention?
Like, no.
Okay. I think that's maybe like something you could work on.
Well, maybe I should listen again since you're still the editor-in-chief.
Yeah, honestly,
I think.
like, you can listen to the Daily Titan podcast. They'll have it on there.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually one of the hosts of the podcast.
No way.
Yeah, wait.
Wait, you are?
Yeah.
Wait, are we on the
No,
podcast?
yeah.
We're on the podcast right now. That's what
right
this is for.
now. And you will
We
never
are?
guess what we're going to talk about.
The article I wrote about Vice President of Student Affairs.
That would be correct.
Oh,
Oh my
God.
goodness.
So
You know,
tell us a little
every-
bit about that.
Right, okay. So they're one of like the big dogs on campus.
Oh, they're a big dog on campus?
Low-key, yeah. They're part of the president's cabinet. They manage the Division of Student Affairs. That includes stuff like ASI, basic needs, housing, Titan Athletics under that, stuff like that. So there's currently David Forges serves in that role on an interim basis. He stepped into that role in April when Sylvia Alva, who was the president at that point, she fired Dr. Oseguera, who was the vice president of student affairs, and then Forges stepped in. Previously, he was the vice president of HRDI, so another big dog. He just switched divisions.
And what would that be?
Human Resources, Diversity, and Inclusion.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So he was doing that, and now that, he's interim and we just have a new president, Ronald Rashawn, now that he's kind of going to be in that position for a while, it's time to hire a permanent person to do that. So the article was just about the search. The search committee is still in early phases. They've accepted applications, and they're starting to review them right now. And Forges, I talked to him. He said he was going to serve in the role until a new person was announced. He also declined to comment about whether or not he threw his hat in the ring for the permanent position. But for what it's worth, he seems to be very, very passionate about student affairs. He got his start at student affairs at Cal State Fullerton before he switched to human resources. So he seems to like it. He had a lot of things he was proud of that he's done in the division.
Do you think there's a high likelihood he throws his hat in the ring to maintain his candidacy for that position?
I mean, you can never really know. I would say he seems to enjoy it, and I understand he's not allowed to talk about it, so that's why he declined to comment. But yeah, no one has gotten really any indications otherwise. So it's kind of a mystery right now.
Any other positions that they're currently searching for a permanent person for?
Yeah, actually the provost. Yet another big dog on campus.
Yet another one.
Provost is like vice president of the academic affairs division, so it's kind of like manage all the deans of the colleges, things like that.
So an even bigger dog. One could argue.
Yeah, one could argue,
Wow.
for sure.
This is a crazy hierarchy of dogs.
Exactly. Yeah. So Amir Dabirian currently serves in that role. He's been doing that for about almost 2 years now. He has said that he's not coming back as provost, and then Roshan will lead a search for a permanent provost.
Are they still accepting, are they looking for people now, or are they, in the phase of looking through their applicants?
They're in the phase of looking through their applicants, and for both, actually for all the kind of higher-up administrators, the big dogs that they hire, there are opportunities on campus for people in the community to voice their opinion about what they'd like to see. I don't know how much that plays into the decision, but it's just an opportunity for people to kind of see, what priorities they want, or stuff they want to see prioritized on campus.
Okay.
That's
What does
good.
the, timeline of this look like, do you think?
Honestly, within the interviews, they don't know. It kind of depends on the applicant pools. Sometimes they don't get applicants. They think they can do a better job, so they open it up again. It just kind of depends.
Yeah.
But they do have a committee. They are, looking through the applications right now.
Who's on the committee? Do you know?
So the chair of the committee is Kimberly Shiner, yet another big dog on campus, serves on the president's cabinet.
Apparently.
She is the vice president of university advancement. So she manages stuff like StratCom, stuff like funding or outside funding, the philanthropy, stuff like that. The hiring committee consists of 3 faculty members, 5 individuals appointed by Roshan, the president, and then an ASI student representative, and then the chair of the academic senate can be part of it. I'm not sure if he's part of this one.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is going to be a long process, low-key.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's an important thing. I mean, this guy, the person who's going to do this is in charge of student affairs.
No,
Yes.
definitely. They should
Yeah.
take their time looking
Yeah.
through to make sure they find the most qualified and most applicable candidate.
They manage about 400 people, and then there's 43,000 students that go here. So it's a big job.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, tall task.
Yes, exactly. But yeah.
What are you most looking forward to in your last semester at the Daily Titan?
Before your reign is over, what do you want to make happen?
I'm going to flex real quick. I'm really close to 150 bylines.
Well, okay.
I need like 10 or 12 more. So I want to write those and get to that number because I think that would be like...
Any specific desk you want to cover with those?
Will I see a byline from Miss Emily Winston?
Yes, I've been actually wanting to do an opinion for a while. I wanted to do it last semester and then this semester ended and I was like, whoops. But I want to do one. We'll tell you later.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, editor and queen.
Bye.
All right, now we're going to head over to lifestyle so we can start looking through the smoke and mirrors surrounding marijuana cartridges. So recently, a couple of reputable newspapers and other sources have disclosed that there are pesticides and other chemicals being found inside of different companies' wax pens.
Yeah. Shout out to Alyssa Lowry for writing this piece. It's very interesting. And if you guys are interested in like looking through which companies they name drop, hey, DT or dailytitan.com.
Go ahead and check that article out. Great read.
But yeah, it just kind of overviewed how a lot of these major companies that distribute marijuana legally use outside sourcing, which takes away control from the manufacturing process, making it like altogether a little bit more like not sketchy, but a little bit more unregulated. And it allows room for a lot of dangerous chemicals to be put in there that, you know, necessarily shouldn't be in there and are definitely not good for you.
Yeah, there definitely are a lot of shadier aspects when it comes down to producing these kinds of cartridges for people to consume. For those that are interested, there are a couple of resources linked at the bottom of the Daily Titan article on the website to check out.
All right, guys, I know you've been wondering, and the answer is yes. I've updated who is my favorite desk, and that would now be opinion, because that would be me as the editor. So this week I published my first opinion article. I know, round of applause for me. And it's on fake activism and how the digital world kind of takes away from real action getting done.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good take because I feel like as social media has become more prevalent in people's lives, it sort of diluted a lot of what activism is supposed to be, because people think that by interacting online or by like posting and reposting the same content, it's having the same impact as real world activism and going outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that was my thought going into this, was just like that was a timely piece, because I think we're approaching a very like high tension time in America where a lot of people are equating having conversations online with activism. And it's great. And I'm not trying to like knock anyone who is having those conversations online, because it's a great tool to spread outreach and like, you know, spread information. But I think people need to realize that it can't stop there. The fight can't stop there. You're not really doing as much as you think, you know. And a lot of the times, like, it does come from a place of like, oh, I want to be on the right side of history. I want to do this. Like, I want to align myself with like the right, quote unquote, right thing. But like, it has less impact than you think. Like, and it doesn't always have to be, I mean, I detail this in the article, but like resistance doesn't always have to be exactly like what movies say it is, like with protests and stuff like that. You could write letters to your representatives, you know, like educate one another and overall just be informed. Like that is the best thing you can be in a time like this.
There are many ways to be a part of activism without necessarily posting something on your story. There are ways to get involved in your local community. And like you were saying with these conversations, they're definitely a tool and they're definitely a jumping off point, but you have to have somewhere to jump. The conversation is not the end of the discussion, it's the start of one.
Absolutely.
People need to go beyond their conversations and create meaningful and actionable solutions that can be implemented in order to really show how they feel and to really reach the goals they have in terms of activism and in terms of creating change.
Yeah. And one of my sources, Professor Lovell, he's a political science teacher here, and he made a really good point of how like activism and resistance and all of this, like this narrative in the media today, it's like it kind of stems from this fetishization of the 60s and how everyone thinks that they could like, you know, be part of something as like big as that. And I'm not saying that we can't now, but a lot of people lose touch with how activists back then were treated in the moment. Like Martin Luther King Jr. was called un-American for his peaceful protests. So not everything you do is going to be accepted outside of, you know, digital forums. And that's part of, you know, resisting. You're resisting in itself is like counteractive of the big picture. So that's just, you know, a sentiment that people need to carry outside of the digital landscape, I think.
Yeah, like it's one step of the process, but it's only one step.
It's the first step.
Exactly.
Really, in a long, long line of actions. So, you know, be informed, educate your neighbors, educate yourself, stay safe. All right, guys, get excited. After a long wait, The town is once again rumbling with
Oh my
whispers.
God. They have been active lately.
You will never guess who is here to talk about sports.
No, we wouldn't.
Yeah, because he is the newly minted sports editor turned sports correspondent for DT Pod, Nick Wire.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Hey.
Oh, how are you, Nick?
I'm pretty good. How are you guys?
Doing good, doing good. So we saw in the paper there's a couple previews for softball and baseball. You want to tell us a little bit about what the season's looking like for each sport?
Yeah. So let's just go right into baseball, I guess. So baseball last year they were 16-38, not a good team. They're going to have 6 junior transfers and 10 freshmen coming in, so it's going to be a new look team, and they have high expectations because in the past they've won national championships, and they're expected to get back to those ways. And so we talked with head coach Jason Dietrich, and he was specifically really excited about one of their freshmen, Brady Dawkin, who's he's coming out of high school, and he's got a 1.65 ERA in high school as a pitcher, and he was first team all CIF, and CIF is that's the big high school division around here. So they're really excited about that. And then this baseball preview is just talking about other players such as Jacob Shart and Eli Lopez. Those are 2 returning players to keep an eye on. Both of them hit over 300 last year, and they're expected to be in the heart of the order, some of their best hitters. As far as the rest of the rotation, they have Micaiah Negretti. He he had a 4.61 ERA, 67 strikeouts, and 4.61's not a great ERA, but he's the best pitcher on the team last year, and he's returning. So they've got a lot of good stuff and higher expectations this year. So that's why we talked with Coach. Yeah.
Oh, definitely, yeah. With a lot of like new players as well as returners, how do you think the momentum is going to carry over to the season?
I'm expecting a better record. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than almost 40 losses, and there's just a lot of optimism around the program.
Definitely. I'm curious to see what the coaching staff will do with all that new talent, especially considering like the legacy of Fullerton baseball on campus. Yeah, that's awesome. What about softball? How are they looking?
So softball, they have a brand new head coach, Gina Oaks Garcia. Okay. Their old coach stepped away, so brand new coach. However, so that last season they went 39-19 and they won the Big West. Okay. So they're really good. They made the national tournament at the end of the season.
How deep was their run?
They got out in the first round.
Okay.
But 2 of their starting pitchers, their 2 best starting pitchers, transferred to other universities. One was to Auburn, and I don't remember what the other one transferred to, but they're so they're going to need pitching. So they have one returning pitcher from last season, Liana Garcia. She has a 2.77 ERA, so she's very good. But losing your 2 best pitchers is a pretty big,
no, definitely
big
hurts a team. Yeah.
As far as the rest of the team, batting wise, they lost a lot of players too. Last year when I talked to Coach, I did a season preview last year. To their previous coach, I talked to her, and she spoke really highly of Kate Veerhoff, which is their outfielder. She said as a freshman she has one of the best arms she's ever seen.
Okay, high praise.
Yeah, high praise. And then Colby McClinton is their shortstop, and she hit 300, and she's returning this year. So last season specifically, they were a team that hit a lot of home runs. This year, they're looking like a team that's not going to hit a lot of home runs, but they talk about manufacturing runs, which is just another way of saying
Getting on base.
Getting on base a lot, getting short hits, and then scoring runs.
Awesome. Sounds like a Moneyball situation.
Yeah. So that's kind of what they're looking at. So there's a lot of optimism for both teams, high expectation for both teams. That's what a lot of people come onto campus to watch, both of these teams.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, now for the important question. Is that we ask everyone this, okay? This is your initiation into DT Pod.
Okay.
Is there a specific word that you are like really dying to put in a headline?
Any word.
Like any word ever. Like, what is your like dream word to put into a headline?
Extravagant.
Okay.
That's a good one.
What context do you see yourself using that in? Is there a specific baseball game or softball game you're looking forward to seeing or covering?
Yeah, so baseball plays against UCSB. They have a pitcher I forget his name, but he's projected to go in the top 10 of the MLB draft.
Oh wow, okay.
So UCSB, that'll be fun. I want to see him live. So
When is that?
right-handed pitcher. I don't know when it is exactly, but it'll be cool. Fill the stands for that. That'll be something cool to see.
All right, well, that's kind of all we have, and we have an entire other episode we have the rest of the episode to shoot, so if you could, like, see yourself out, maybe, or if you want to go, or...
If you want to watch out for that door on the way out. Like,
we'll see you on Sunday.
There's a little mini fridge in the lobby area if you want to grab a drink, or like...
Yeah.
All right, bye. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thanks for being...
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for this week's season premiere of Daily Titan Podcast Season 2. Be sure to pick up a copy of the Daily Titan on campus or check us out at dailytitan.com to read what the articles mentioned and more. Thank you all for listening, and as always, if you like us, we love you.
All right, Titans, I know it's been a while since you've heard this part of the episode, but this is the part where we get real thankful real quick. So I'm gonna walk you through it. First of all, we got to give a special thank you to our executive producers, Isaiah Mallari and Emily Wilson. Another big thank you to our producer, Luis Vizcaino. A thank you to our assistant producers, Raniel, Santos, and Michelle King. And a thank you to Bijan Shoushtarizadeh for supplying the beautiful music you're hearing now and at the start of the episode. And thank you, the listener, for listening to us speak about what's important on our campus and in our community. We hope to see you next week, and make sure you grab a copy of that paper. We'll see you soon. Peace out.